Welcome to Relief Chats, where we unravel the mysteries of our minds to help you manage stress, understand emotions, and psychological traps. Today, we're diving deep into a common, profoundly frustrating experience: ironic rebound effect. Why is it that the moment you decide not to think about something, that cringy memory, that nagging worry, that specific fear, it suddenly becomes the star of your mental show? It's like your brain has a rebellious monkey living inside, determined to do the exact opposite of what you ask. This isn't a flaw in your character, it's a fascinating quirk of our mental architecture. We'll explore the psychology, the social pressures, and the neuroscience behind this, and most importantly, discover effective ways to find peace, not by fighting your thoughts, but by changing your relationship with them. Let's start with a classic psychological concept. Ever heard of the white bear problem? It's not a fairy tale, but a groundbreaking experiment by social psychologist Dr. Daniel Wegner. He gave people a simple instruction: try not to think of a white bear. What is the result? Participants thought about white bears far more often than those who were told they could think about them. Wegner termed this ironic process theory. When you try to suppress a thought, your brain initiates two processes: a conscious operating process that tries to distract you, and an unconscious monitoring process that scans for failures, for any sign of that forbidden white bear. And guess what that monitor does? It keeps the thought readily available, almost inviting it back in, especially when you're tired or stressed. This isn't just about furry Arctic mammals. It's about that anxious thought before a presentation, or that intrusive image you wish would vanish. The legendary psychologist Carl Jung intuitively understood this decades earlier. He famously said, "What you resist, persists." Jung believed that the thoughts and parts of ourselves we try to disown or suppress don't just evaporate. They often retreat into what he called the shadow, the unconscious parts of our psyche, where they can gather energy and influence us in unexpected, often more potent ways. Trying to forcibly silence a thought is like pressing down on a spring; it's bound to pop up with more force. Now, why this intense desire to control our thoughts in the first place? Our social environment plays a huge role. We're constantly bombarded with messages, both subtle and direct, that we should be masters of our inner domain. Think about the pervasive good vibes only culture, or the well-meaning but often unhelpful advice to just stay positive or don't worry so much. This creates an unspoken expectation: if you're having negative, anxious, or unwanted thoughts, you must be doing something wrong. This can lead to what's known as thought policing or toxic positivity, where we judge ourselves harshly for our own inner experiences. This internal judgment only amplifies the urgency to suppress, which, as we now know, is counterproductive. We see curated highlight reels of others' lives, leading us to believe everyone else has their mental ducks in a row, further fueling our own struggle for an often unattainable level of thought control. So, what's happening inside your brain during this mental wrestling match? This is where neuroscience offers incredible insights, particularly around the concept of neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. When you try to actively suppress a thought, your prefrontal cortex, PFC, the brain's CEO responsible for executive functions like planning and inhibition, goes into overdrive. It's working hard on that operating process to push the thought away. But, as Dr. Wegner's theory suggests, part of the PFC is also engaged in monitoring for the unwanted thought. This dual role creates significant cognitive load. More critically, if the thought is emotionally charged, say, it's a worry or a fear, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, gets involved. When you try to suppress a thought the amygdala is flagged as potentially important, you might inadvertently be increasing its perceived significance. The very effort of suppression focuses attention on it. This is where neuroplasticity comes into play in a challenging way. Repeatedly engaging in this struggle, the suppression attempt, the monitoring, the emotional reaction, can strengthen the neural pathways associated with that thought and the anxiety around it. Think of it like this: the more you walk a particular path in the grass, even if you're trying to tell yourself don't walk this path, the more worn and defined that path becomes. You're inadvertently reinforcing the very connections you want to weaken. This creates a draining vicious cycle. An unwanted thought pops up. You try to banish it. This activates the ironic monitoring process, making you hyper-aware of it. The thought feels more intense and frequent. You feel more distressed, maybe even blame yourself for not controlling it better. This distress makes you redouble your efforts to suppress, and round you go, each cycle potentially making the thought feel more powerful and entrenched. If forceful control is the problem, then the solution lies in a radical shift of approach. It's about working with your mind, leveraging its neuroplasticity for positive change, rather than against it. Therapies like acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, offer powerful alternatives. Instead of fighting, practice observing your thoughts as if they are temporary mental events, like clouds passing or words on a screen. Mindfulness isn't about stopping thoughts, but about changing your relationship to them. Notice them, perhaps even label them, the worry thought, or there's that critical voice again. And then gently let them go without getting entangled. With practice, this builds new neural pathways for non-reactive awareness, strengthening your PFC's ability to observe without immediate amygdala activation. You're teaching your brain a new, calmer response. Acceptance, in this context, doesn't mean you like or agree with the thought, it simply means allowing it to be there without a struggle. Cognitive diffusion techniques from ACT help you see thoughts as thoughts, bits of language, images, memories, rather than as literal truths or direct commands. For example, instead of "I am a failure," you can reframe it as "I'm having the thought that I am a failure." Or even more playfully, "My mind is telling me that I'm a failure story again." Again, thoughts are just thoughts, not truths. This creates psychological distance. This practice helps to uncouple the thought from the intense emotional reaction, weakening those old, reactive neural pathways. Once you've acknowledged and diffused from a thought, you can choose to gently redirect your attention. This isn't forceful suppression, it's a conscious choice to engage with something that aligns with your values. What truly matters to you? Focus your energy there. Each time you disengage from the struggle and invest in valued actions, you're actively building and reinforcing new, more adaptive neural pathways. This is neuroplasticity in action. You're literally reshaping your brain towards what you care about. This whole process is hard. Having a mind that sometimes feels like a runaway train is part of the human condition. Instead of self-criticism for failing to control thoughts, practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same warmth and understanding you'd offer a good friend. This soothes your nervous system and reduces the internal pressure that often intensifies unwanted thoughts. So, the path to a calmer mind isn't through tighter control, but through wiser engagement. By understanding the ironic nature of thought suppression, the social pressures that fuel it, and the neuroscience of how our brains react, we can see that trying to strong-arm our thoughts is often a recipe for frustration. Instead, by embracing strategies like mindfulness, acceptance, cognitive diffusion, and gentle redirection, grounded in approaches like ACT, we can cultivate a new relationship with our inner world. We can leverage our brain's amazing capacity for neuroplasticity to weaken old, unhelpful thought patterns and strengthen new, more peaceful and resilient ones. It's about shifting from being a frustrated controller of your thoughts to becoming a compassionate and skillful observer of your own mind. What has your experience been with this mental tug-of-war? Have you tried any of these strategies, or do you have other insights to share? I'd love to read your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. This is a journey we can all learn from together. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel reach more people. Share it with anyone you think might find it helpful. Please subscribe to Relief Chats for more deep dives into managing stress, understand your emotions and free from psychological traps. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to be kind to your mind, and I'll see you in the next video.